Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine nation. And wow, there's a lot of stuff going on around the world. And today we're going to be talking about mesh networking now. My name is Todd DeVoe, Director of Emergency Management at Titan HST, and also I teach at the post-secondary level emergency management, and learning things and sharing what I've learned is a passion for me. And so, well, welcome to Business Continuity Today. You know, this weekend, I guess, is the start of the Memorial Day weekend and the start of summer. But first, before we get into this, I want everybody to have a safe and joyous, well, joyous isn't really the word I want to use, Memorial Day weekend. But please take time to step back and reflect on why we're having this weekend. Memorial Day is to reflect those that went before us and lost their lives serving our country. That's what Memorial Day is about. And so as you're cooking your hot dogs and your hamburgers at your barbecue, let's take a second and just reflect on that and then enjoy the rest of the weekend. So mesh networking. What exactly is it? So one of the biggest questions I get when I talk about what Titan HST does and the fact that we have mesh networking built into our system. And it's sometimes can be confusing. And there are a couple different things that are out there that do mesh networking and they do it well. And what it does is it's basically creates a repeater, if you will, for your device to be able to communicate with other devices. So in the case of an emergency, when cell towers go down, right, because they do, we saw this happening in some of the larger fires here in California, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, the cell towers go down. But your phone, if it still has power, right, still has the ability to send messages, even if it's not hitting the cell tower. And so basically, if your phone hits to another phone that has mesh networking built into it, then it can go down and basically daisy chain or down the road for as long as there's connection until it hits a cell tower, and it's able to push the information out to everybody else that's in the system. And that's the basics of what it works. But what does it really do, and why is this important for emergency management and business continuity? Well, if you think about it, communication, we've talked about this like a gazillion times, is always like the top 3 thing that you have an issue with, right? So whether it's communication in the sense of not understanding the verbiage that is being sent, right? So bad messaging, communication in the sense that the device doesn't work, right? So there's the radio or the phone or whatever doesn't work as well, or the third thing is with communication is messages being sent or received in the wrong order, right? So those are some of the issues that we really think about when you go talk about communication. So how does mesh networking really help with that? So now, just to be clear, you're not necessarily going to get video or voice over the mesh networking. And matter of fact, I don't know. I could be. No, I won't say this completely because I don't know of any devices at this point that have great audio mesh networking. There might be some out there that I don't know, that I'm not aware of, but the ones that I do have some working knowledge of, voice is not the key. It's getting text messages or email type messages across the system. And also the other side of it is location data coming back to you. So those are the 2 things that really mesh networking works on. A few years ago, I want to say a few years ago, 2005, there were certain cities in the nation that were working on putting mesh networking nodes in, like, basically on top of all their power poles or their traffic signals, right? To be able to kind of put this that's why it's called a mesh net, if you would, over the city for communication needs. And it worked pretty well for what they were doing. and they were looking at this as a way of doing nodes for internet, or for the Internet of Things. And so mesh networking at the end of the day is going to be really critical when we're looking at the Internet of Things, the IoT. Which that means is all the devices that have internet-based connectivity. So that's going to include those new refrigerators. I've seen Samsung has a washer machine and dryer that are connected to the internet, which I think is kind of wild. The refrigerators are connected to the internet. Obviously, your televisions and now are more than just a one-way device for news or whatever to come into you. It's in some cases a two-way device with that. So your televisions are now mesh networked. Or have IoT, which would fall into the mesh networking, and then you're starting to see the use of mesh networking and the Internet of Things with driving, right? So we're seeing the increase of the self-driving cars. Now, the other day, I was over at the Stitch Radio Studios, and we're standing outside, and one of the self-driving cars drove by. It was pretty interesting to see. And then yesterday, I saw a video of an Uber that sent a unmanned, unstaffed, undriven, no humans inside of it car um, to pick up somebody. And I'm not sure where that was. It was a video that was shown, and I find this interesting that we're starting to see this. So the point about that is that those devices are going to rely upon mesh networking capabilities. So it is something that you really are going to have to get your head around in the business continuity space, right? Because number one, you're going to need to have devices that have the ability to be part of the mesh or part of the network. And then the other side of it too is you're going to want to have communication devices that are able to be part of the network or be able to in its own network to be able to share information, critical information during a crisis. So as we are sitting in the Wildland Fire Awareness Month for the next couple of days, we've seen already in California a couple of wildfires, or Western United States for that matter, a couple of wildfires that kick off, significant ones that have kicked off early, right? So having the proper communication device in play now and practice with it, especially one that has mesh, is going to be critical when we start having these events. Hurricane season, we just had the National Hurricane Conference. Hurricane season is among us, or about to be among us, if you will. And that being said, so having that, again, that device that when the infrastructure is down, you're still going to be able to communicate with each other, and using a mesh networked system is critical. That's one of the things that I'm proud about being part of Titan HST is that they have, Vic, the CEO of the company, was leaning forward and looking at all of these different areas where communication has failed, and he found a solution for them. And using mesh networking, being an early adopter in the system or of mesh networking was critical. And the fact that the software is able to turn your phone into a mesh networking device, I think is amazing. And that technology is great. And we've seen it work, right? We've seen it work across California during crisis. That communication was still able to get out. So whether you're using Titan HST or you're looking at a secondary external device for your mesh networking, it's critical that your business and that your organization has something that works when the network is down. And it is the other part about it too, I forgot to add this too, is the more devices that you have online, right? The more of these that you have working instead of like a regular cell phone where you have more online, it jams the system and it shuts down. The more devices that you have that are part of the mesh, the better the system works, because it goes from phone to phone to phone. It bounces. It's amazing to see it work. So the more people, the more saturation that you have of devices, the better the network works. So I think that's kind of cool. So if you'd like to learn more information about mesh networking and how it works for your devices, please check out titanhst.com. And always check out TitanHST for all of your communication needs. And until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.